When the aloof alpha boss underwent secondary differentiation and turned into an enigma. Marvin. You smell amazing. I played it off. Not catching on to the mood. It's probably just my body wash. Marvin. Can I come closer, just to smell you? I kept it formal, probably not a good idea. We're both equal alphas. Marvin. I can't take it anymore. Please. Help me. I acted like nothing had happened after we slept together. Later. He twisted both my arms behind my back and pinned me against the wall from behind. I gave in. Pleading. Patty. I was wrong. He gave a cold snort. Then stopped running. 01. It hurt, really hurt. Someone had sunk their teeth into the gland on the back of my neck. His canines pierced my skin. And a rush of pheromones flooded into me, burning through every single nerve. It hurts, stop. I cried out, unable to control the trembling. My legs felt weak. My body sliding down involuntarily. The man biting into my gland caught me in his arms. Don't move, his voice was low and raspy. Like he was holding back a lot. Just stay still. Patty, overwhelmed by the surge of pheromones. I was on the verge of tears. It's too much. I can't. I'm an alpha. How could someone bite into my gland like this? Was he trying to mark me? How could one alpha mark another? The pain was unbearable. His scent was overpowering, so strong and dominant it practically smothered mine. I couldn't fight it. All I could do was endure. Tears spilling from my eyes uncontrollably. The intense mix of mint and sandalwood wrapped around me, flooding my senses. I stared blankly at the overhead light. Dazed. Caught between the pain and the scorching heat that clouded my thoughts. 02. This was the airport bathroom. The man who had just bitten my gland was my boss. Patty. Half an hour ago. We were waiting for our flight in the VIP lounge. Everything had been calm, until a high-level Omega unexpectedly went into heat. Their pheromones burst out uncontrollably, triggering chaos in the enclosed lounge. Patty and I were both alphas. But I was only D rank. So I was affected far more. I clutched at Patty's sleeve, trembling. Patty. I'm not feeling well. He immediately put a pheromone-filtering mask on me and wore one himself. I'll go get you an inhibitor. While everyone was distracted, I locked myself inside a bathroom stall. When Patty returned and gave me the shot, the heat in my body didn't ease up at all. That was strange, but I didn't have the energy to dwell on it. I told Patty. It doesn't seem to be working. If you're okay, go catch your flight. I'll call a hospital. Higher-ranked alphas have better pheromone control. Patty was clearly holding up fine, with just a patch and a mask. He still looked composed. It's fine. I'm not in a rush. He said. I'll stay with you. Alpha pheromones naturally repel each other. Patty left me in the stall and waited by the sink outside, lighting a cigarette. I was trying to resist the arousal triggered by the Omega's pheromones. But suddenly, the sandalwood in the air thickened. Not just a little, it surged in like a tidal wave. So intense it drowned out my own minty scent and made it hard to breathe. Next thing I knew, Patty kicked open the stall door and came in. His always calm eyes looked like they were on fire. I instinctively shrank back. Patty. Sorry. I think Patty looked like he was in agony. He didn't even finish his sentence before yanking me forward and locking me tightly in his arms. The first thing he did was bury his nose in my neck and inhale deeply. Again and again. Then, without warning, he roughly tugged open the collar of my shirt and rubbed his thumb hard over the gland on my neck. As I trembled, he opened his mouth and clamped down on it. Soon after, I felt the sharp sting of his canines breaking skin. I had never experienced pheromones this overwhelming. Combined with the pain in my gland, tears spilled from my eyes without me realizing it. Patty pulled me out of the stall. He leaned back against the sink, one arm around my waist. the other pressing the back of my head. I had no strength left, completely slumped against him. In the mirror above the sink, I saw myself. My blazer hanging loosely off one arm. Shirt nearly falling off one shoulder. And Patty, my supposedly cold, restrained boss, his tall frame completely engulfing me. Head buried in my neck. As if trying to devour my scent. It was too much. I couldn't look anymore. What scared me more was that I didn't resist his alpha pheromones at all. Instead, I wanted more. I pressed myself even closer to him without realizing it. He lifted his mouth from my gland. Then kissed me. Without warning. My eyes widened. My knees nearly buckled. And he quickly lifted me up onto the sink. Continuing that intense, aggressive kiss. Patty's pheromones surged again. And my senses were a mess. I vaguely heard people outside. Jesus. Who the hell is in there? It's suffocating in here. Move. Move. If this keeps up, the whole airport's gonna riot. And in that choking flood of sandalwood, I passed out. 03. When I woke up, I thought I was in a hospital. But the person wearing a lab coat and a specialized mask told me this was a pheromone research facility. What's your relationship with Patty? He's my boss. Oh. The researcher responded casually. Just so you know, your boss has undergone a second differentiation and turned into an enigma. The two of you will need to be quarantined here for a while. And, by the way, his pheromones ended up flooding half the airport. The chaos caused a ton of flight delays. So if you see something in the news about it online, don't be too surprised. I tried to process what I was hearing. Blank. Then stunned. An enigma? Patty underwent a second differentiation into an enigma? Enigmas are beyond the typical ABO dynamic, an extremely rare classification with overpowering pheromones. They're even capable of marking alphas and turning them into their exclusive omegas. They sit at the absolute top of the food chain. But they're exceedingly rare. It's said that in the past decade, each city has documented fewer than 10 enigmas. And now, Patty? So the suppressant didn't work earlier because I was already being affected by his pre-differentiation pheromones? I murmured. That's possible. The researcher nodded. Right now, Patty is still in the middle of differentiating. His pheromones are incredibly strong and unstable. Which brings me to something we need your opinion on. What is it? I asked. Because Patty temporarily marked you at the beginning of his differentiation. He's now entered a state similar to an alpha sensitivity phase. If you're willing to stay with him during this period, it could help stabilize his pheromones much faster, allowing him to return to normal life sooner. I hesitated. Stay with him, how exactly? The researcher answered matter-of-factly. The way you're thinking. Oh. So basically, like how an omega supports an alpha during their rut. And if I say no? The researcher paused, seeming slightly surprised by my question. Then we'd probably have to use more aggressive measures to manage him. An enigma in a pheromone-disordered state is extremely difficult to control. Aggressive measures. My fingers instinctively curled into a fist. I'll think about it, I said. 04. That night, I tossed and turned. No matter how I thought it over, this just didn't seem like a good idea. Patty has always been professional and strict about boundaries, plus, he's my direct superior. An out-of-control bite in a crisis was one thing. But helping him through his differentiation, that kind of intimacy would almost certainly complicate things. Before I fell asleep, I was convinced I'd made up my mind. The next day, the researcher asked if I'd reached a decision. I was about to say no. But for some reason, the words shifted as they left my mouth. Can I see Patty first? I really shouldn't have looked. Patty was being held in a special isolation room on the top floor. After passing through a heavy iron door, there was another steel bar gate inside, like something out of a prison. When I saw him, I froze. He was asleep on the bed, curled up, his face half covered with a bulky metal bite inhibitor. His right wrist was shackled with a short chain. I was furious. How could you treat him like this? This was Patty, the brightest star in the tech world. A genius everyone praised. Always composed. Always elegant, no matter the situation. He handled it all effortlessly. How could he be chained up like some kind of criminal? We didn't want to either, the researcher said with a shrug. But a newly differentiated Enigma is extremely dangerous. Their pheromone craving makes them aggressive. If it weren't for the tranquilizer, he'd probably be tearing the place apart right now. I gripped the steel bars in front of me, then bit my lip hard and said, "All right. I'll stay with him. I'll help him through the differentiation." 05. Inside that sealed, isolated chamber, Patty's Enigma differentiation surged like waves, sometimes receding, sometimes returning. It dragged on for 10 days. By the end of it, I walked out first, my gland a mess of bite marks, my whole body covered in bruises. I collapsed at home and slept 3 full days before I could function again. When I finally returned to the office, everyone already knew. Not about me, but that Patty had become an Enigma. It wasn't just the change in his scent. For the first year after an Enigma's differentiation, they're required to wear high-grade inhibitors in public to prevent dangerous pheromone surges, until they can fully control themselves. As for me, most people just knew I'd been quarantined with him due to the incident at the airport. They didn't know anything beyond that. I saw Patty again at work. The bite inhibitor he wore now was different from the one in the lab, sleeker, more discreet, but still metallic. It covered the lower half of his face, giving him an oddly cool, detached look. Because of that, his eyes, already striking, stood out even more. When he looked over at me, I froze. In that instant, I saw a flash of those same eyes, bloodshot and burning with desire. "Marvin," he said, his voice low and steady. "About what happened at the airport. I'm really sorry." That snapped me out of it. I quickly replied, "It's okay, Patty. It all happened so fast, no one could have seen it coming." "Are you all right?" he asked. "Did it affect you badly?" "I'm fine. It didn't impact me too much." I quickly looked away. The truth? My glands still hurt. The bruises on my body hadn't fully healed. But I would never tell him that, because he didn't even know I was the one who helped him through the differentiation. Before I left the research facility, a researcher had explained that Enigmas, due to the overpowering control their pheromones exert on body and mind during differentiation, often retain only blurry memories of that time, like waking from a dream. Some don't remember a thing. We're letting you know so there aren't any misunderstandings later, the researcher told me. But don't worry, we'll fill him in. At first, I regretted giving in to that sudden rush of sympathy. I was already stressing over how to explain to Patty that none of it had been personal. But once I heard he might not remember any of it, I felt a wave of relief. I even asked the researcher if they could not tell him it was me. They didn't agree at first. The researcher said that if an Enigma and someone could form a long-term mark bond, it would greatly stabilize the Enigma's pheromones and reduce future risks. Otherwise, he'll have to keep coming back here for regular pheromone extractions. It's a tedious process and not ideal. No. 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 I waved my hands quickly. Even if he's my boss, I've already done enough. Helping him more than this just feels inappropriate. Seriously. Becoming his long-term bonded partner? That's basically agreeing to be his bedmate. I'd have to be insane to say yes. 06. During lunch break, while everyone else in the office was resting, I slipped into the bathroom to change the dressing on the wound over my gland. Luckily, the shirt collar and suit jacket covered it well, and I had cut a small piece of gauze just right, so the wound hadn't been noticed. Standing in front of the mirror, I loosened my tie, unbuttoned a few buttons, and pulled my collar open. Then, gently, I peeled off the tape. Marvin? The voice behind me made my hand tremble as I was about to apply the ointment. Patty strode over, suddenly pulling back my collar, exposing the wound on my gland fully to his sight. What's going on? His voice was low and serious. God. Doesn't he usually need the alarm to wake from his nap? Shouldn't I be asking him that? I forced a dry laugh. Patty. You didn't nap? Just woke up. A flicker of discomfort flashed across Patty's face. That wound, was it from when I bit you at the airport? He lowered his voice on the last few words. No. No. I instinctively denied it. Then realized. A wound in a spot like that is hard to get from anywhere else. Are you dating someone? Patty asked softly. Seems like a very special Omega. I caught his eyes drifting to my open collar, where the faded but still visible marks of a hickey lay on my collarbone. I hurried to close my collar. No. I don't have time for dating. Honestly. It would have been easier if I let him think I had a partner. But for some reason, I denied it without a second thought. Just, an accident. Patty immediately looked like he got it. Looks like working for me is pretty stressful for you. I chuckled dryly. How can you respond to the boss saying that? But you still need to take care of yourself. He added. Patty walked to the sink, took off his bite inhibitor, and washed his face. Seeing me awkwardly twist to apply ointment on the back of my neck, he dried his hands and took the cotton swab from me. Let me do it. The swab, soaked with medicine, felt cold as he applied it to the swollen wound. I couldn't help but flinch. I'll be gentle. Patty softened his touch and even leaned in slightly, blowing gently on the wound as he applied the ointment. That's my gland, the most sensitive part of my body. The scent of an Enigma brushed over me, making my hand gripping the edge of the sink clench tight. My breathing quickened. No. After forming such a deep temporary mark with an Enigma, I reacted so easily to his touch. I immediately turned away and said, "That's enough. I'll take care of the rest myself." Patty seemed a bit surprised by my strong reaction, but soon his gaze drifted aside. He picked up his bite inhibitor from the sink and put it back on. "Sorry. Still getting used to being an Enigma," he said. After he left, I looked back in the mirror and finally understood why his eyes had drifted. My ears and neck flushed bright red. Everything went dark. Keep your distance. From now on. Absolutely keep your distance from Patty. 07. It's over. I can't keep my distance from Patty. I need his pheromones. I desperately need his pheromones. The researcher sounded confused over the phone. Didn't I tell you? This is totally normal. Enigma pheromones are really bugged, they last way longer than alphas. Especially since your temporary mark is deep. Even after the scent fades, the effects linger. As long as the temporary mark isn't invalidated, you'll crave his pheromones to soothe yourself. Ah. No. 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 You never told me this. It's all my fault. I was so worried Patty might sober up and leave too fast that I only asked her for a quick-acting dispersing medicine and ran off without listening to any precautions. No big deal. The researcher said. 1. You have intimate contact with him. 2. You keep something with his pheromones on you, clothes, a blanket, anything close to his skin. No big deal. That's a huge deal. The boss's personal items? Am I supposed to steal them? Isn't that creepy? I flopped on the bed like a dying fish. Isn't there any kind of medicine? Like suppressants or something? No. Not yet. The researcher sounded exactly like an unhelpful customer service rep. Enigmas only appeared in recent decades due to a genetic mutation. We still haven't figured out their differentiation mechanism fully. Research is way behind. 08. Luckily for me, Patty happened to be sorting out his wardrobe, clearing out some old clothes, and since I'm his personal assistant, the task naturally fell to me. In all these years working for him, I never had second thoughts or took advantage in the slightest. But this time, sneaking off with a few sets of his loungewear made me feel guilty and ashamed. I had nightmares for several nights straight. In my dreams, Patty pinned me against the wall, lifting my chin with a wicked smile. Want my pheromones? Beg me. Beg me. And I'll give you anything. I shook my head desperately. Tears falling. Voice choking. Trembling. Patty. I'm sorry. I don't want it anymore. Please don't fire me. Patty let out a scoffing laugh. Ripped open my shirt. Little assistant. You say no with your mouth but your body's honest. Then, with my screams and his sinister chuckles echoing, I jolted awake. Waking up still wearing Patty's clothes. I cried out, covered my burning face, and rushed to the bathroom for a cold shower. Coincidentally, Patty's been having rough sleep lately too. One day, there was an industry summit in the neighboring city. In the morning, I went to his place early to wake him up, prepare his breakfast, and get his suit ready for the event. Seeing him yawning repeatedly, I casually asked while adjusting his tie, Patty, haven't been resting well lately? Those dark circles are getting worse. Yeah. A little. Patty half closed his eyes, staring into the mirror. I keep dreaming. Can't sleep soundly. Nightmares? Not exactly. Patty suddenly lowered his gaze toward me. Because I was tying his tie, my eyes naturally drifted over his neck. I clearly saw his Adam's apple bob once. I got inexplicably nervous, hurried my movements, and pulled the tie tight. But actually, I wasn't pulling that hard. He moved closer. Pulled by my motion, I instinctively stepped back, my back hitting the mirror. He didn't pull away. Instead, he braced a hand on the wall beside me, tilted his head, and leaned in closer. Marvin, what perfume do you use? It smells really good. His eyes looked a little dangerous. Without the bite inhibitor, I swear he might have tried to bite me. No perfume. I don't use any. I blinked, trying to act casual. Must be my pheromones. Patty thought for a moment. Doesn't smell quite the same. I can't really explain it. I said. Maybe it's the body wash I use. If you like it, I can switch to it for you next time. Patty sniffed twice more but couldn't get too close because of the inhibitor. I reminded him professionally. Patty, it's time to go. He showed a rare bit of irritation. TSK. Change it for me tomorrow. I blinked, surprised. What? The body wash. He emphasized. The one you use. 09. All day long. Patty seemed to be in a low mood. Though in work mode he showed no sign of it, chatting politely and maintaining his usual grace. I noticed a few times he couldn't help but tug on his tie behind people's backs, only to retighten it afterward. That definitely meant he was a bit irritated. During lunch break, we went back to the hotel to rest. The organizer booked a suite for Patty and me. As soon as we got in, Patty sank into the sofa, completely loosened his tie, and tossed it aside. I poured him a cup of hot water and bent down to place it on the coffee table in front of him. Just as I was about to stand up, Patty suddenly grabbed my wrist. Marvin, he said, looking at me seriously. I have a request. I didn't understand why he sounded so formal all of a sudden. I'm his assistant, helping him is normal. Why the sudden seriousness? Sure. What do you want me to do? Can I get close and smell your scent? His voice was deep and magnetic, without a hint of flirtation. But the words sent a storm through my heart. I forced myself to stay calm and then heard Patty explain, since I became an enigma, my sense of smell seems much sharper. The venue today was crowded. And all the mixed pheromones made my nose uncomfortable. But Marvin, your scent smells really good. He sounded a little confused about his own words. I, however, understood it better. Actually, my scent hadn't changed at all. That morning's talk about body wash was nonsense. What kind of body wash scent could ever overpower pheromones? Patty suddenly liking my scent was probably due to the temporary mark, even though he didn't realize it himself. It's probably the mint scent I have. I gave a plausible explanation. Then refused, but Patty, our EA status is different now. So it's not appropriate. Patty's tone held a little disappointment, not even with the bite inhibitor on. I stood firm, still not good. How about I buy you a bottle of mint essential oil? Patty pressed his temple. All right. Might as well try. No matter which horse you bet on. It didn't work. Patty stayed restless all afternoon, instinctively following close behind me. Even when I went to the bathroom, he naturally said, "Let's go together." You couldn't tell from his expression that he was intentionally orbiting me. But in fact, he was. A few days ago, Patty was supposed to go to the pheromone researcher to extract the excess pheromones building up in his body. But due to work, he asked me to postpone it until after this business trip. At first, I thought delaying about a week wouldn't be a big deal. But now it's clear I was wrong. The researcher was right, without a long-term partner, an Enigma really faces trouble in many ways. I couldn't help but bring this up with Patty. He raised an eyebrow when he heard it. Are you trying to get me to date someone? I said. Well, it's not off the table. Patty seemed a little unhappy and ended the conversation with, I'm not interested in that for now. 10. On the third day, the conference ended successfully. The organizer had planned an outdoor buffet for networking and relaxation after the event. But a sudden downpour forced them to cut it short. Patty didn't like socializing and politely declined several dinner invitations from executives, returning to the hotel suite with me. For some reason, I felt weak and exhausted all day. After eating the simple meal the hotel ordered with Patty, I went back to my room to rest. While showering, I suddenly heard a thunderclap roll outside. A loud boom and the lights in the room went out, plunging me into complete darkness. I panicked, not even drying off before hastily putting on clothes and stumbling out of my room. Unexpectedly, Patty was right there at the door. I bumped into him. Marvin, are you okay? I have a deep fear of pitch-black darkness. And Patty knows this well after years of working closely together. Once, when we were stuck in a broken elevator together, the claustrophobia plus darkness overwhelmed me. I curled up in a corner hugging my knees, shaking uncontrollably. Patty sat beside me, gently patting my back, making the ordeal bearable. This time was no different. Patty didn't push me away but held me close, clutching his jacket tightly. I practically used his body as an anchor and followed him to the sofa. The hotel manager called, saying the power would be out for a while longer. Feeling helpless, I leaned against Patty, every second stretching like a century. Marvin. In the darkness, Patty suddenly called softly, his voice tense. Are you in a sensitive period? I was confused, then. Because of his reminder, I caught a strong, sharp mint scent in the air. This wasn't just a sensitive period. Weakness, fatigue, these were signs of entering rutting heat. Me, an alpha, marked temporarily by an Enigma, was experiencing the same heat as an Omega. Fear of the dark forgotten. I quickly put distance between us and stood up from the sofa. Maybe I'd better stay alone. My steps were hurried and uneven. I tripped over the coffee table and stumbled back, onto Patty's lap. He immediately wrapped his arms around my waist, refusing to let me get up. What are you panicking about? The sudden power outage meant Patty hadn't had time to put his bite inhibitor on. Now, his chin gently rested on my shoulder, lips nearly touching my gland, as if swallowing nervously. Marvin. Are you lying to me? Since when does an alpha's sensitive period make an Enigma lose control? 11. The next moment, I felt his thumb firmly rubbing my gland. It was like an electric shock running through my whole body. I immediately went limp against him. You didn't go to the lab on time to extract your pheromones. Right? That's why they're easier to get out of control. I scrambled for an excuse, trying hard to keep my voice steady. Is that the reason? After all, no one really understands enigmas well yet. So even Patty, though suspicious, couldn't figure it out clearly. Besides, I wasn't entirely wrong. He was indeed in the middle of a pheromone surge. Such a pain. Patty muttered softly. As he spoke, warm breath brushed over my gland repeatedly. The deep scent of sandalwood seemed to command me to submit to him. I almost wanted to cry. Let's go to the research institute tomorrow. Tonight. You can buy some strong alpha suppressants to barely hold on. Patty frowned. No other options? Nope. My gland was probably swollen. He pinched it lightly with his finger. The pressure was gentle but highly stimulating. And I couldn't help but make a sound. Marvin. I'm barely holding it in. Please help me. I wanted to refuse, but my body wouldn't let me say no. Before I could answer, Patty gently turned my face toward his and kissed me. In the darkness, my vision vanished, but all my other senses were amplified. I heard his sexy breaths in my ear and the faint rustle of our clothes rubbing together. His cool hand slid over my lower back, like a snake winding along my skin. Where was the logic now? I needed him. I craved him. I wanted to beg him. He was Patty, blessed by the heavens, the center of everyone's attention wherever he went. If it weren't for that accidental secondary differentiation, how could I have gotten his kiss? How could he have lost control over me? Because he was Patty, I was destined to surrender. Just as I was destined to enter that isolation room and stay with him through the long differentiation. I pushed Patty away. He probably thought I was trying to leave and quickly held my waist. But I only changed position, spreading my legs to straddle him. When he kissed me again, he was noticeably more aggressive. His tongue pressed hard enough to hurt the back of mine. I wanted to pull away but couldn't bear to lose his passion. Lost in our mingling pheromones and intense kisses, I felt like I was dreaming when the lights suddenly flickered back on, annoyed at being woken from a beautiful dream. Patty, who was busy licking my gland and trying to pull off my shirt, was startled too. He looked over with that flawless handsome face and lustful eyes that struck me like lightning. The signal's on, he said suddenly, lifting me up. Let's head to the room. I quickly hooked my legs around his waist, pressed into the soft mattress. I closed my eyes, waiting for Patty to lean down and kiss me again. But then, he asked with surprise. Marvin, are you wearing my clothes? 12. Damn it, I forgot. I completely forgot. These past days, I couldn't sleep without wearing clothes scented with his pheromones. I agonized over it for a long time. But when packing for this trip, I secretly tossed 2 of his loungewear pieces into my suitcase. I thought, even if we shared a hotel, he wouldn't just barge into my room. Wearing his clothes to sleep wouldn't be noticed. Who knew there'd be a blackout that threw me completely off balance? In an instant, I felt like my entire blood volume surged to my face. Oh my God. I stole my boss's clothes as pajamas, and got caught red-handed. How much of a weirdo must I look like in his eyes? I frantically wondered how to explain this so the pajamas wouldn't seem so strange. But my brain seemed to malfunction, like a machine with a broken chain. Gears spinning wildly but accomplishing nothing. I just needed your pheromones. In the end, between sounding like a weirdo and telling half the truth, I chose the latter. At the airport last time, since you bit my gland, I needed your pheromones. I closed my eyes awkwardly. Patty. I'm sorry. Patty chuckled lightly and gently brushed my tear-streaked cheek. What's there to cry about? You could have just told me. Do you think I wouldn't help you? Only then did I realize I had been so embarrassed that I'd actually cried. I bit my lip and shook my head. We were just boss and assistant, how could I have asked my boss for something so suggestive? My Marvin. Patty sighed and leaned down to kiss me. You're too good at hiding things. You made me think I'm a... The last two words were swallowed by the kiss, I didn't hear clearly. But I didn't have the energy to ask. Moments later, surrounded by an explosion of Enigma pheromones, I lost all shame and pride, melting into a puddle of weakness. At the brink of losing control, Patty suddenly stopped, looking down at me like a master to his slave. Marvin, do you like my pajamas? I bit my lip hard and stayed silent. Patty, My voice was barely a whisper, What else do you like about me? Embarrassed. I turned my head away. He grabbed my chin and forced my face back. Tell me. Marvin. What else do you like about me? My pheromones. His presence was so overwhelming, tormenting me in so many ways, I could only say with a sob. I like your pheromones. And I like your eyes. Your mouth. Your hands. Everything about you. My Patty. You'll never know how much I look up to you. I couldn't continue, the more words I spoke, the more it felt like I was stripping off a layer of clothing. Shame peeking. Good boy. All my pheromones are yours. Patty rewarded me with a kiss, and an endless flow of his pheromones. I went from parched to overflowing, every cell and drop of blood in my body seeming to merge with his scent. The only good thing, he didn't lose control and mark me again. Because I couldn't take any more. 13. I'm aware of myself, no matter what happens between Patty and me. In the end, I have to return to being his assistant. After all, it's all caused by pheromones. The next day, I deliberately got up earlier than Patty. After tidying up my room, I went to his room as usual, opened the curtains, called him to wake up, and reminded him about the flight time. Patty saw me fully dressed and asked hoarsely, "Why not sleep a little longer?" I said, "Work still needs to be done." Patty. He was momentarily stunned. Last night was just an accident. I understand. Patty. I'll pretend it never happened. Patty frowned. After a moment, he sneered. Marvin. You have a lot of accidents. It took me a moment to realize he was teasing me. When I changed my wound dressing in the company restroom before, I'd told him that was an accident too. I didn't say anything more. How many Omegas have you slept with? Patty suddenly asked. I pressed my lips and said, I don't know. Then that's a lot. Not really. I never did one-night stands. Ever been the bottom? No. How did it feel? I didn't know what to say. After a pause, I told him, Patty. Our flight's pretty early today. Let's not delay. Patty actually has a rare bad mood in the morning. At this moment, he was clearly very upset. He threw back the covers loudly and stormed into the bathroom with a dark expression. I started packing his luggage. While checking and tidying the desk, I accidentally knocked his pen to the floor. The pen had no cap and rolled all the way under the bed. No choice, I took off my jacket, stuffed my tie into my shirt carelessly, knelt down, and stretched out to reach. Suddenly, I felt a gentle kick on my butt. Turning around, Patty, already showered, stood behind me. His hair was slightly damp, eyebrows and lashes dotted with water drops. Face expressionless, eyes lowered on me. I thought I must be imagining things and hesitated, asking, Patty, what's wrong? At that moment, Patty lifted one foot and slowly traced an arc down my butt with his toe. Not an illusion, my face flushed red instantly. Marvin. You really have some charm, he said lightly, then turned and left. 14. The boss seemed angry. But maybe not. I couldn't tell. Since I became his assistant. Except for the initial adjustment period when we barely knew each other. I hadn't felt this way for a long time. Patty had 5 assistants in total, 2 got fired during probation. 2 left before a year. Only I had been by his side for almost 5 years. Some colleagues who were close to me said when I joined. Many bet I wouldn't last long because I seemed too fragile. True. I had just graduated. A complete rookie. And Patty is known for being demanding. So people thought I wouldn't last. But I persisted. Even Patty once said, "Marvin, you understand me better than I do." People joked I was Patty's destined one. But I knew that understanding was only surface level, careful observation and patient records. When I first started, my phone notes were full of Patty's personal details, habits, preferences, everything. I never thought a day would come when facing him made me suddenly anxious and confused again. And that feeling lingered for a while. At work, Patty remained absolutely rigorous and responsible, that hadn't changed. But outside work, maybe it was my imagination. His attitude toward me seemed a bit distant. Before, we would have aimless chats unrelated to work during breaks. Now he was indifferent. And I didn't dare to start a conversation. So the atmosphere slid into awkward silence. That morning, Patty was restless. Even during the early meeting, he oddly seemed distracted looking at me. Several times when I brought him coffee or documents, I caught him frowning and staring at me. Like he wanted to say something. Remembering he said his sense of smell had gotten sharper. During the afternoon break I cautiously asked, "Patty, is it because the mixed scents here are too messy? Should I arrange for an air purifier on this floor?" He was leaning back with eyes closed and quietly said, Just as I was about to leave, he suddenly opened his eyes. Clearly exasperated. "Marvin, how late were you messing around last night?" I thought he noticed me yawning repeatedly and quickly apologized. "Sorry, Patty. I'll be more careful." Admitting fault was better than making excuses. But that made Patty even angrier. You need to blow off steam so badly. You can't even hold it in on a workday. Then I realized he'd misunderstood me again. Thinking I'd had a one-night stand. Don't you know your clothes don't fit? Do you want the whole world to know you didn't come home last night? It wasn't what he thought at all. Last night, my good friend broke up and invited me over to drink. We both got drunk. This morning, I found my clothes all wrinkled and unwearable for work. I wanted to go home and change but didn't have time. So I borrowed one of Patty's suits. My friend's a beta. Smaller in build than me, an alpha, so his clothes were tight on me. But no one noticed except Patty. And no one else commented on my clothes. Again. The boss was angry, admit fault and it's fine. Sorry. I won't let personal matters affect work anymore. I said sincerely. Lowering my head. Patty didn't press further. Just coldly said, "Marvin, I hope you'll take more responsibility for work and everything else." 15. No way. You actually let him go? What's there to be reluctant about? Just hire another assistant. In Patty's office, the company's vice president and Patty seemed to be chatting casually. I was standing outside the slightly open office door holding some files. When I heard Patty say, "Hire another assistant," my brain buzzed. And I pulled back my hand just as I was about to knock. The VP laughed and asked, "You're so picky. Don't you think it'll be hard to find anyone else who meets your standards?" Patty replied calmly, "Just try a few more. Someone will be competent." TSK. The VP said, "You know, not talking about workability. Just looking at him is nice on the eyes. It's a pity we won't see him around the company anymore." Say that again. Patty's tone clearly turned cold. The VP chuckled. "I'm not into alphas. I just appreciate the view." Marvin. Phone. At that moment, the phone on my desk rang. A colleague passing by gave me a reminder. So I quickly turned and left. That whole day until I finished work, I kept thinking about what I'd done wrong. After a lot of thought, I was sure of only one reason. I'd said it before, Patty is a person who strictly separates personal and work matters. No matter what happened between us, whether due to pheromones or something else, given his personality, he wouldn't tolerate it. Thinking back carefully, his attitude toward me did subtly change after that blackout night. He probably delayed making a decision partly out of consideration for the years we'd worked together. Okay. If that's the case, I have to accept it. After all, it's all my fault. If I hadn't lost my head and decided to help him through his secondary differentiation, those pheromone issues wouldn't have happened. I crossed a line without his consent. I must bear the consequences of crossing that line. It's fine, it's just a job. With my skills and experience, finding a better job wouldn't be difficult. Right? It's not like nobody has tried to poach me all these years. I just have feelings for my first job after graduating and haven't agreed to leave. But people always want to move upward, don't they? Maybe this is a chance given by fate to rest and then start anew. It's okay. It's okay, I kept reassuring myself. It's no big deal, I won't be unemployed. I comforted myself and drank yet another drink that night. Damn Patty. Pulling up his pants and not recognizing me. The evil capitalist. Saying no to me. Human nature twisted. Morals corrupted. I didn't make any major mistakes at work. I deserve full compensation. No less. And annual leave. I've worked for you so many years. Never taken a single day off. That's just not right. No. I have to take that leave back. The next morning, I sent Patty a message, saying I had an urgent family matter and hoped he'd approve a long leave. Since it was almost the new year, I asked for leave until after the holidays. Patty asked briefly, I said it was personal and not convenient to explain. After a long pause, he replied, okay. Tell HR. And send the leave form later. At least he had some basic decency. 16. The reason for the leave was made up. But I really did go home. Since it was the new year anyway. It was good to spend some time with my parents. On the first day, my parents welcomed me warmly. By the third day, they complained I woke up too late and didn't move around enough. By the fifth day, they were already arranging blind dates. What a smooth little combo. While dodging their matchmaking attempts, I worked on my resume on my laptop. After uploading it to job sites and blocking my current company, I switched my job status to actively looking. Year-end wasn't hiring season, so I didn't expect a seamless job transition, just browsing casually. Unexpectedly, within 3 days of uploading my resume, I received several calls from headhunters asking if I'd left my job, what positions I was interested in, and salary expectations. A former senior from school even messaged me on WeChat, asking if I wanted to join his company. Actually, when he returned to start his business a year ago, he'd contacted me. But I wasn't considering a job change then. So it never went anywhere. This time, somehow he learned I was job hunting. So he brought it up again. And since I had time, he called to introduce his company. It was late when I hung up, and I wasn't thinking much about it. Ready to sleep, then Patty called. Surprised, I answered. Patty. What's up? His voice was low and heavy, tapping my eardrum through the phone. Who were you talking to so late? Why so long? I mumbled. A friend. Patty, what kind of friend? Me, just a friend. Patty, boyfriend or girlfriend? Me, neither. Patty, then what kind of friend? Me, just a friend. Patty laughed angrily. You'll be home tomorrow, right? Me, yeah. Patty said. Then I'll come see you tomorrow. I suddenly jumped out of bed. Why are you coming? Just passing by. Thought I'd check on you. I swear. His tone sounded a little like gritting teeth. 17. The next day. Patty really showed up from another city. Driving to my building. I rushed downstairs to meet him. And he pulled out several fancy gift boxes from the trunk. Saying he wanted to visit my parents. I was puzzled. Is that necessary? The boss personally coming over, my parents will think I got into trouble at work. Then don't tell them I'm your boss. Still carrying the gifts. Patty knocked on my door. My parents are AO with weak pheromones. So facing Enigma's overwhelming pheromones. They seemed a bit uneasy. Patty didn't say he was my boss. And I didn't mention it either. I just introduced him as a friend on a business trip stopping by to see me. My mom was suspicious and pulled me aside. Whispering. Isn't that your boyfriend? You wouldn't have done that. Right? I ignored the last question and answered the first, no. My mom breathed a sigh of relief. Good. I invited Marsh over for dinner tonight. Mom. I snapped. I told you there's nothing between us. Why invite him? Marsh was my high school crush, he sat in front of me in class. An A-level Omega. Fair-skinned. Beautiful. With slim waist and long legs. I was naive and innocent then, just one smile from him would make me grin all day. For years I thought I'd kept this crush well hidden until after graduating college. My mom suddenly brought it up and told me the teachers had noticed and even contacted his parents in secret during senior year about my early romance. But since my grades were good, they didn't make a big deal and didn't tell me. Recently, my mom somehow met Marsh's mom at the park's matchmaking corner. Since neither Marsh nor I have settled down, the two moms agreed to try to match us. Hoping to fulfill my long-suffering unrequited love. I said, Mom. That's ancient history. How can it be long-suffering now? She didn't care and said, you liked him then. You probably still do. Besides, Marsh looks even better now. What's there to complain about? Marsh's mom said he still remembers you and wants to hang out. Why invite him over? You know how lazy I am. You're making opportunities for me. Mom glanced at Patty. Then changed the subject and blamed me. Why didn't you tell me you had a friend coming? Now they're both here. God. How would I know the boss insisted on visiting my family? I was caught off guard too. Okay. 18. Marsh showed up on time. At the dinner table. My parents were busily fussing over everything, telling Patty to eat more. Making Marsh feel at home like he was family. And trying to steer the conversation toward their plan to match me with Marsh by bringing up high school memories. Marsh. You and our Marvin got along pretty well back in high school. Right? Mom suddenly exclaimed. As if she just remembered something. Exaggerating. The teachers even thought you two were dating. The teachers never actually said that. Really? Marsh opened his eyes a bit wider. Clearly believing it. And shyly said. Not really. But yeah. We were pretty close. I remember we'd meet every day on the school bus. And Marvin often brought me breakfast. Marvin. Do you remember? I felt Patty's gaze shoot straight at me. I forced a laugh. Wanting to say I didn't remember. But it felt rude to deny it outright. So I vaguely answered. I think so. We just happened to take the same route. Mom scolded me for missing the point and coldly revealed the truth. Our houses aren't even in the same direction. I think you purposely took that bus. No wonder you woke up so early all those days, it wasn't out of love for studying. My embarrassing teenage secret was just exposed in front of the boss. I was seriously mortified and quietly nudged my mom's leg under the table, signaling her to stop. But Patty quietly turned his head toward me and asked, what's going on? That meal was truly agonizing. Afterward, Mom strongly hinted that I should walk Marsh home. I knew one compromise would lead to more. So I resisted, arguing back with her in subtle ways. Finally, Patty stood up politely and said, it's getting late. I won't keep your parents any longer. I'll visit again another day. Marsh took the cue and stood up to leave too. Mom pushed me toward the door. Marvin. Walk him out. Patty immediately looked over and said. All of you go together. I'll drive you. I couldn't believe it, I actually got my boss to drive me around. On the way to Marsh's place. We sat side by side in the back seat. Chatting casually but sporadically. Patty occasionally glanced at me in the rearview mirror. And I always met his gaze, his mood clearly wasn't good. Marvin. A few classmates who were going home early from high school invited me to a bar. Want to come? Marsh suddenly asked. I thought about it, some classmates I hadn't seen in years, and didn't refuse. Sure. Why not? Patty quickly asked. How do you get to the bar? I felt bad about bothering him and said. Patty. Why don't you go back to the hotel? We'll take a taxi. No problem. Patty said. I'm free today. Just tell me the way. Marsh was there. So I didn't want to argue. I leaned forward. Grabbed his phone. Opened the map app. And set up the directions for him. After getting off. Marsh asked. Is he really your boss? During our casual chat. I answered honestly. I nodded. Yeah. Marsh looked a bit surprised. You can just use your boss's phone like that? I was a little taken aback. Is that strange? Patty's phone is often on my side. And when he's too busy, I usually answer calls for him. He never seems to mind. I shrugged and smiled at Marsh. I guess to my boss. The phone is just a work tool. Just like me, a tool for the boss. 19. I hadn't been to a bar in a while. After knocking back several deep shots with old classmates, I started feeling pretty tipsy. We played dice and finger-guessing games. And I joined enthusiastically. After a few rounds, I was getting dizzy. Marsh looked worried. Waved his hand in front of me. And asked. Marvin. Are you okay? I pushed his hand down. I'm fine. Really? Hey. What are you guys doing over there? Someone approached and saw my hand still resting on Marsh's. They teased. Are you two dating? I quickly pulled my hand away. Suddenly, more people joined in. Shouting and laughing. I knew it back in high school, Marvin likes Marsh. Wow. A couple at last. That's the third couple from our class. Right? What kind of fate is this? Ha ha ha. You should ask the homeroom teacher if he secretly matched everyone up. Marsh blushed. Stop it. We're not. Well then. Why not now? Be together. Be together. Fueled by alcohol. Everyone got wild. Kiss. Kiss. Kiss if you're together. Amid the bar's chaotic colors and noisy crowd. Marsh suddenly looked at me expectantly. Marvin? He said my name softly with his full, beautiful lips. And I almost smelled his Omega's sweet scent again. My mind went blank as I stared at him. He closed his eyes and slowly leaned in. I was still a bit shocked until our lips almost touched. I hurried to pull back, then suddenly someone grabbed me hard from behind. The force spun me around. And my lips hit a cold mouthguard. The strong scent of sandalwood almost made me weak at once. Patty appeared out of nowhere and grabbed my waist tightly in front of everyone. Why didn't you dodge? Do you want to drive me crazy? I stared into his cold, sharp eyes above the mouthguard. Swallowed. And found myself wanting to get closer. Patty pressed my head onto his shoulder. Sorry. He's drunk. I'm taking him out first. In the hallway just beyond the bar. My body burning from alcohol. I pushed Patty against the wall. Roughly yanked off his mouthguard. And eagerly kissed him. Marvin. Patty grabbed my chin and pushed me away. I looked at him. Confused. Licking my lips. His eyes darkened suddenly as he flipped us around. Pinned my hands behind my back. And pressed me against him from behind. My arms hurt a bit. And I struggled slightly. Softly humming. It hurts. That's how it should be. Patty said coldly. You deserve to hurt. His words made me feel a little wronged but also oddly excited. Especially after feeling his pheromones release. Patty. I'm sorry. I heard my own soft voice. What happens when you're sorry? Sorry means apologizing. No. Patty tightened his grip on my hands. Tell me. What happens when you're sorry? Sorry, my thoughts completely froze. I don't know. Patty snorted and whispered word by word into my ear. When you're sorry. You're not allowed to run away. 20. I woke up in an unfamiliar hotel room. No one was beside me. But I could hear water running from the bathroom. Someone must be showering. It must be Patty. I sat up and rubbed my temples. My whole body aching. I had drunk too much the night before. Emotions totally unrestrained. Patty really wore me out. And in the end, I even cried on his shoulder. I told Patty. You bastard. You have no heart. You bit my glands so badly. It hurt like hell. All your bite marks. Just look at them. You make me wear your clothes to sleep every day. I feel like some kind of freak. You call me a playboy. What playboy? I'm hardworking and diligent. I wish I could just revolve around you. When would I have time for one-night stands? And yet you want to fire me. Use me up and toss me aside. Though I'm sure I won't have trouble finding another job, if you don't want me. There'll be plenty lining up behind. Woo! Patty. I'm your best assistant. I'm so good, how could you be so cruel to me? Alcohol makes you say all kinds of things. Things that should or shouldn't be said. And even the stuff about the secondary heat phase came out. Damn it. I should sneak out while he's still in the shower. Without hesitation. I threw back the covers. Hurriedly got dressed, but I was so rushed I stubbed my toe hard on the bed corner. Tears instantly flowing. Marvin. Patty appeared. Dripping wet. His voice was angry at first. But when he saw me sitting there with teary eyes, he immediately rushed over and squatted in front of me. You're bleeding. Patty held my foot gently with wet hands. Both worried and angry. Why are you in such a hurry to run away? I curled my toes. Patty said. I'll go get some medicine and bandages. Stay put. No running. 15 minutes later. He returned. Breathless. I was still on the phone with my mom. She angrily asked what I had done to Marsh. Saying Marsh went home crying for a long time and demanded I apologize. She also asked where I was last night and gave her final verdict. I knew you and that Enigma weren't just friends. You finally became an alpha after secondary heat. But you still did that, aren't you going to drive me crazy? Forget it. If you're serious, have him over for a proper meal sometime. Otherwise, he'd feel too wronged. Patty sat beside me, grabbed my ankle, and rested my leg on his thigh. I felt embarrassed and tried to pull my foot back. I can do it myself. Don't move. Patty held my foot firmly, cleaned the dried blood near my big toenail with hydrogen peroxide, and asked, What did your mom say? I said, Nothing. I heard her. She told you to bring me home for dinner. I hesitated. Then said, She misunderstood. I'll explain to her. What misunderstanding? Patty finished bandaging but still held my foot. Marvin. Are you going to start something with me and then just abandon me again? What? I opened my eyes wide in disbelief. Who abandoned you? Patty said. Last time you said let's pretend nothing happened. This time you slept with me and just want to run away. If that's not abandoning, then what is? I almost couldn't breathe. I was just afraid you slept with your assistant and I couldn't handle it. I can handle it. Patty replied quickly, looking at me steadily. Why would I mind sleeping with someone I like? I was shocked. What did you say? Patty, I can handle it. Me, say it again. Patty smiled. I like you. My heart pounded. I turned away nervously. You already know. Right? It's just because I helped you through secondary heat and we have a temporary bond. So you're more sensitive to my pheromones. It'll pass. Try to see it that way. So you don't like me? After everything I said. Patty just flipped it with one question. I can't say it, I don't like you. I lowered my eyes. Do you prefer omegas? If that's true, I won't bother you anymore. When you get married. As your boss. Maybe I can still give you a big gift. Patty let go of my foot and went into the bathroom to wash his hands. I zoned out for a moment. But then I couldn't hold back the emotions bursting inside me. I rushed into the bathroom and hugged him tightly from behind. I like you. Patty. I like you. 21. As for being fired. Well. That was a huge misunderstanding. Patty actually felt wronged. He said he just wanted to transfer me to a branch office. Though I hate to lose you. With your talent. You can't be my assistant forever. I wanted to send you to the branch for 2 years to train. And once you gained enough experience, bring you back for a higher position. But before I even told you, you ran off. Then several people called asking if you'd really quit. Marvin. You nearly made me lose a boyfriend and a good employee. Double kill. Later, I transferred to the branch office. The branch and head offices were in different cities, not too far. But I was busy with work and rarely had time to see him. Once, Patty personally came to the branch for a meeting. I reported last quarter's work. And he was very satisfied. After work, he gave me some private recognition in my office. He pushed me down on the desk. His shirt and tie neat. But he tousled me from head to toe. Marvin. Have you reflected on your attitude toward your boss lately? Wearing that cold mouthguard. His tone was chilly. But his body heat was burning hot. I wanted to take off his mouthguard and kiss him. But he held my hand back. Have you reflected? I was annoyed and pushed him back into the chair. Patty raised an eyebrow. Marvin. Planning a rebellion? I took my loosely tied necktie and slowly bound his hands together. Everyone has a duty to resist boss oppression. Now. I was the one not letting him take off the mouthguard. He rested his head on my neck, wanting to bite my glands. But the mouthguard stopped him. He could only pant heavily. I grabbed his hair from behind and forced him to look up. His eyes were frighteningly red. Wet lashes drenched in sweat. A vein bulging on his forehead, very sexy. I said softly. Patty. Have you reflected on your attitude toward your employee? Patty's eyes narrowed slightly. Then he let out a low laugh. Make me reflect again. Will you?